Hi friends, welcome back to Kishorelytics and I am Kishore. In Kishorelytics, we introduce a Python crash course for free. You don't need to pay a single money for me. Okay, and in this video, we are discussing about the OOPS concept. Where in the OOPS concept, we are discussing about the how to create the class and how to build the class and how to create the object, how to modify the class. And in this video, we are discussing about the inheritance concepts also. In the future videos, we are discussing about the advanced concepts also. So stay tuned, sit back and relax. Let's get into the video. About the Python classes and objects. See, in my previous video, we are discussing about the objects. In my previous video, we are discussing about the arrays and list and tuples, sets and dictionaries. And my previous videos, we are discussing about the variables, data types, operators, and everything about it. And in this video, we are discussing about the classes and objects. We are giving the Python as a free crash course. You don't even to pay the single money for me. It's entirely right. So let me discuss about the classes and objects. What is meant by classes and objects? Basically Python is an object-oriented programming. We were discussing about the first video, and this is the part 3 video. We want to watch the previous two videos in the YouTube in the Kishorelytics channel. Subscribe to the Kishorelytics channel. Okay, fine. Almost everything in the Python is object. Okay, don't ask what is meant by object. Let me discuss about the later. In almost everything in the Python is an object with its properties and methods. Basically, methods are just as the functions. We are discussing in the previous videos. In the previous video, we are discussing about the list and functions. In the previous video, we are discussing the classes and objects. Right? Okay, fine. Basically in the Python is everything is the object with its properties and the methods. Okay, and first we will discuss about the class and later we are discussing about the objects. What is meant by class? Okay, Kishore, what is meant by class? Let me tell something. Consider a class. In the class there is a group of students. They have different properties, right? They have different characters. So one boy has a character with this later and this, and another boy has a skill like software developer, anything at all. Okay, fine. In the class there is a group of people. They have a different set of characters. Okay, different set of skills. Okay, that's like the class. That is same as the class is like an object constructor, and it's a blueprint for creating objects. It's just like a blueprint. We want to write mainly the class and my class. In Java we are discussing everything about the class, public class, void main. Okay, everything is about Java is a class, but Python is makes simpler. First we want to discuss about the variables and input types, and later if we want to know object oriented programming, just Python like this. If you want to create a class, like class and give the class name, class name is my class, and let me give the x is equal to 5. That's all about the creating the class. Okay, what is meant by object? How to create the object? You are asking questions, right? I will tell this what is meant by object. I will tell the classes are the group of peoples. They are the different skill set. Okay, how to access the class? In the class the teacher was accessing the students. So that like in the object we are accessing that like the classes are the objects are nothing but that access the class. How to create the object? Just in Python, that's very simple matter. Give the variable name and call the function. Sorry, call the class. That's all about the class. If you create a class like my class is a keyword and to create a class, and my class is a variable, and I just initialize the x is equal to 5. And how to create an object, right? We want to give the name, this is the object, and just to call the function, just to call the class. Here the classes are nothing but the functions that are special type of the functions. That's it. Okay, in print we want to access with the object, we are accessing the class. Okay, I tell right, the teacher is used to access the children's. That like we want to access the class just because of the objects. If you want to access the class just because of the objects, here the p1 is the object. With the help of the p1 we are able to access the x. Okay, that's it about. And basically these examples are classes and objects in their simplest forms, and these are not really used in the real life applications. Let me tell something. These are the very simple examples of creating the class, and these were not used in the real-time applications, right? If you want to create a real-time applications, just by creating the init built-in init method, and to understand the meaning of the classes, and we have to understand the built-in functions. Okay, built-in init functions. Okay, what is meant by init functions? Let me discuss about. All classes have a function called init. Okay, all type of functions called the have a function called init, which is always executed when the class is begin initiated. Okay, understanding guys, all the classes have a function. Any class have a function, that any class have a variables and methods where these properties, and each object have the properties and the methods we are discussing about the in this line, right? Each object, each almost everything in the project have properties and methods. So that like any classes, see, all classes have a function called init. Any function having a function that have the init, which is always executed when the class is begin initialized. Which is always when the class initialized means the init function is also executed. How to use the initialization function, init function? Okay, let me tell. Using the init method function to assign the values to the properties. We want to pass the parameters, right? We want to, in the function we are passing the parameters. We are discussing about the my class of function. We want to x. If we want to pass the parameters, we want to initialize the init function. So, okay, let's me discuss about. And this video is basically a theoretical section. We are discussing about the practical section in the later mode videos. Okay, in the example, create a class named person. Okay, first we want to create a class that named as a person. Okay, creating a class is just simple, but by initializing a keyword class and initializing the person's class name. Okay, okay, let me inside the class. If you want to inside the class def and init function. Okay, the init function, and we want to pass a self. First it will call it by self, then after only we want to pass the arguments. Okay, the self dot name is equal to name and self dot age is equal to age. If you want to create the object, sorry, if you want to create the object, just create by p1 is equal to person of, you want to give the name and the age, so that the class one will give the name. Okay, name and the age. So persons of, we want to pass the arguments, name as the John, and here the John will goes here, and it will print the self dot initialize the self dot name is equal to John, and the age 36 will go here, and self dot age is equal to 36. And let me print that. With the help of the object we have to able to access the class, right? Print p1 dot name, print p1 dot age. It will print the John, right? It will print the John, and it will print the 6, right? Are you able to understand guys what is the use of the init function? All classes have the function called init. Every functions have the init function. See, this is like these three keywords are used to memorize memory itself. I tell. Okay, all classes have a init function which is always executed when the class is being executed. Okay, that's it. That's all about the init function. Okay, the init function, we are here the keep quick note for the init function. Okay, the init function is called automatically every time the class begin use unit to create a new object. As we discussed about the in the previous line, all classes have a function which is always executed, right? When the class object is accessing the class, the init function is also executed. So that's the note for this in the quick note for the init function. And like the init function, there have another function called the string function, and in the string function that control that what should be written when the class object is represented as the string. If you want to represent the output as a string, you just mention the string function. Okay, if the string function is not a set, this is not a set, the string representation of the object is represent, it just return the string object. Okay, let me tell with the example. Okay, first we are creating the persons and def init self comma name comma age. Okay, and we are giving the initialize the function init function, use the init function, self dot name is equal to name and self dot age is equal to age. It's a previous above init method example. And if you want the string in function example, let me give the example. Class person class init function. Init function is always executed when the class object is created, Okay, def init self dot comma name, we are giving the parameters as name comma age. Self dot name is equal to name and self dot age is equal to age. Okay, here if you want to return the John, and John age as 32, that comes the that comes in the format function, right? Format function are represented as the string. Okay, let me declare this def and string function of self return f of self dot age. We are initializing a for giving the format to the print function like this, like I wanted. Okay, and giving the creating the object for the class and persons of giving the parameters as John and 36. If you want to print the p1, it will print like this: John of John, not John of 36. Okay, that's it. It will print like this only when the object is created and when the class is function is when the program is executed. String function is nothing but when we want the formatted string as output when the string function is used. It's not important, right? It's used oftenly when the class is created. Okay, the self parameter. See here, you are asking questions like why we are using the self. I come in this note. The self parameter is a reference to the current instance of the class and is used to access the variables that belongs to the class. As I always said in the previous section itself, what is meant by the self? If you want to declare the object and the object is used to initialize access the class, and when we give the parameters to the class, that it's want the self itself. Okay, first we want to call the function and then giving the parameters. That's it on the self. Self parameter is a reference to the current instance of the class, and it is used to access the variables, right? That and the variables are belong to the self function. Self function means that the function in function. Okay, the self parameter is a reference and it is used to access the variable that belongs to the class in the previous note. Okay, and if it does not name self, you can call it as whatever first parameter of the class init function. Okay, my silly object. If you don't create the self function, if you want to create the self function, you want to create the my silly dot object. You can name it anywhere, anything in the self. Where the self means self dot name is equal to name, self dot age is equal to age. That's it. You can name anything instead of the self. That comes the class person, right? And def my function of abc, and we are print of hello, my name is abc dot name. The name we are passing as John, and the print when I call the print dot my function, it will allow my name is John. It will print the my function. Okay, Kishore, how to modify the object parameters, right? Let me recollect it. You can modify the object properties of the object also. What is mean the properties? Properties also is just like a methods, and methods are just like the functions. Okay, how to create a how to create a class, and just a few minutes we are discussing about the how to create a class, how to create an object, how to access the object, how to define the self init function and string function. And in now we are discussing about the modifying the objects. Yes, you can modify the objects also. Example, delete the age property from the p1 object. If we want to delete the age one, p1 dot, we are discussing a p1 dot age is equal to age. If you want to delete that, just giving the del is a very easiest way to delete or modify the class in the Python. In Python, it's very easy to modify or delete the object in this Python. In Java, it's very difficult to modify. So that's why we are choosing the Python as a programming language, and many industrial functions are written code like Python. So there are many openings in the Python developer. So just learn the Python. And if you want to delete the objects, just by giving the del dot p1. Okay, and the final of object classes and objects is the pause statement. What is meant with the pause statement? Pause statement is also a control statement. And when the if you want to create the class and the class just want to empty, you can give the pause. It's just a keyword. You want to give the class, if you want to create a class and the class consists of nothing. Nothing means you want to give the pause. That's all about the object. And in this session, we are discussing about the class and objects. how to create the class and how to modify the class and how to delete the class and init function and the string function, right? In the previous session we are discussing about the objects and the class, how to create the objects and how to create the class, and how to access the objects and methods, and how to modify the objects, how to delete the methods in the object class. Okay, and when we talk about the object oriented programming, that comes the important concepts like inheritance. Okay, if you want to, let me tell you a small story about the inheritance, and I like this concept very much, right? And let me tell you a quick small story. You are working in a company and you are creating a multiple class, and in the multiple class you are creating a class that consists of the name, age, and some biodata of some biodata of the customer. And in the again another class also you want to ask the same, you want to again use the ask the same name, age, and the same in the above class. When we discuss about the, you want to write the code again and again for multiple classes, right? That comes the inheritance. So the scientists are invented the inheritance concept, and I like this concept very much because it comes a very, it's like a family relationship, right? When we discuss about the parent class, it has all methods and the variables. We are accessing the child class. Basically, it's a parent child class. Parents has a behavior, and childs are adapting the behavior from the parents, right? In the real world, in the real world, parents have the lot of good behavior and good behaviors. Childs are adapting the good behaviors from the parents. That's like a inheritance concept. In the inheritance concept, inheritance allows us to define the class that inherits all the methods and properties from the another class. Okay, if you want to inherit the class in in Java, it want to, if you inherit the class, you want to we can use the action methods. And in this in the Python there is no keyword that inherits the parent class. First we want to discuss the definition of the inheritance. Inheritance allows us to define a class that inherits all the methods and properties from the another class. Okay, what is meant by inheritance? It inherits above the in the parent class, and it can inherit all the methods and the properties from parent class, and give the all the methods and the properties to the child class. That's all about the inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but the inheriting all the methods and the behaviors to the child class. So, okay, what is mean the parent class? Parent class is the class being inherited from, where it have the all the methods and the properties. It's a base class. It's also called as a base class. What is mean by child class? Child class is also a class that inherits from the another class. Inherit means it's like a grandfather, father, child, right? That's like child class is the class that inherits from the another class, and also is called as the derived class. Okay, create a parent class. How to create a parent class, right? Let me give the quick example. First we want to declare the class keyword to creating a class, and give the class name as a person, and inside the class we are giving the def, and in giving the init function that calls self. First we want to discuss about the self in the previous section. What is mean by self? If your object is created, that the object want to call by itself, right? When we call the self, okay, that come the self. If you first name and the last name, giving the self dot first name is equal to giving the parameters is a f name, self dot last name is equal to l name, and another giving the another, writing another method as def print name of self, and print, you want to print the self dot first name and the self dot last name. Okay, and we are creating the object as x, and giving the calling the function, calling the special type of function that is the class, and giving the parameters as John Doe. And when you print the name, call the print name method. We are accessing using the x is like just like the object that they are used to access the class, and x dot print name means it will print the John Doe. Okay, Kishore. How to create a child class? Okay, let me give the quick example. Child class that inherit the prop functionality from the another class, right? And if you want to create the class that consists of nothing, that means you want to give the pass keyword. If you want to inherit the person's parent class in Python, it's very simple. Giving in the inside the square parentheses, right? In Java, it's in the class name extends the another child class name and extend the parent class. That's not in the Python. In Python, it's just giving the class name in the parentheses and giving leave it child class as empty. Okay, and we are discussing about the node in the quick note as the, and we are discussing the pass keyword in the previous section. In this session we are discussing about the inheritance concepts. In the previous section we are discussing the pass keyword. What is meant with the pass keyword? Quickly recall it. Pass, if you want to create the class that consists of nothing methods and the variables, if you declare the class name only, it throws an error. If you give the pass keyword, it's like a body that doesn't have the any living being, right? Okay, so okay, how to create a, now the student class has the same properties and the methods of the and the parent class. The student class also have the same properties which are in the parent class. Okay, that's all in the persons we are inheriting. If you create the object for the student and creating the object creating another type of the object x is equal to student and giving the Mike and Wilson, and if you want to print the name, if you are print the name, it goes again to the persons and they call the same function and it will print the name Mike also. It gives the first name and the last name. Okay, adding the init function to the parent class and child class. Okay, how to add the init function to the child class? Let me discuss about the quickly in the inheritance concept session. So far we are creating a child class that inherits the properties and the methods from the parent class. So far we are creating the class parent class. So far we are creating the child class and we are inheriting the parent class. So the student class that contains the function name, function called print name, and the print name, when we call the x dot print name, it will print the Mike also. Okay, fine. The init function is automatically, every time the function is called, a new object is, when the new object is created, that's we are discussing in the previous section. If you want to add the init function, let me show a quick example through the init function. We are using the class student and we are inheriting the persons as a parent class, and if you want to create the def init, giving the self as a keyword, and it will print the f name and the last name. Okay, that's all about the init function. Adding the init function in the child class. When you add the init function in the child class, the child class will no longer inherit the parent class init function. When you add the init function, it's like a, if you, Python tools, if you add a init function in the child class, it doesn't inherit the parent class methods. Okay, that's the point I will tell here. When you add the init function, the child class will no longer inherit the parents init function. Okay, it doesn't inherit the overrides. It doesn't overrides the override means like us, we are the human, we are overriding the ours, right? That it doesn't override the parent class. Okay, that's all about the init function. And to keep the inheritance of the parent class, add a parent class to the init function. Add a call to the parents init function. Add a calls to the parent init function. Okay, let me show a quick example. We are creating a class and creating a class student. It's a child class. We are inheriting the parent class as a person, and if you want to create the init function and self.f name comma last name, we want to access the persons dot init function. We want to give the init function so that the init function can also be called in the parent class. Now we have successfully added the init function and kept the inheritance of the parent class, and we are ready to add functionality in the init function also. Okay. Python has a super function. Its name is, as a name of case, it's a super function. If you want to access all the methods in a parent class, you just use the super.init of fnum comma lname. Okay. Okay, Kishore. We want to add the properties, right? Let me show you a quick example. Class, we are creating the class and child class name as student, and giving the parent name as persons. We are creating inside the class, we are creating the def init and giving the self comma f name comma last name, and we are super function is used to access all the methods in the class parent class. Okay, super init of f name comma giving the parent passing the parameters as f name comma l name, and self dot, we are adding the functionalities, adding the properties, right? Self dot graduation year is equal to 2009. In this example, the year 2019 should be a variable and it will pass to the student class, and when a class is, when they're creating a student object to do another parameter in the init function. Okay, that's all about the inheritance concept. Let me quickly show a practical session of the inheritance concept. Okay, fine. I will opening the editor as a Jupyter notebook. You can watch many tutorial videos in the YouTube. That's why I suggest to use the Jupyter notebook. That helps the beginner to check the errors in the in the learning process. Okay, first we are creating the base class, right? In the base class we are creating the class person, and def we need function we are giving then passing the name as self dot name, name is equal to name, and self dot age is equal to age, and we are creating another method. In here the method is nothing but the function. In def we are introducing the self, we are calculating the self. It will just printing the my name is what is the name given by the user, and I am the what is the age and given by the user and years old. Okay, we are it's a parent class, it's just a parent class. If you want to create a student class, sorry, we are going to create a child class also. If you want to create a child class, just by creating a class student of person. Okay, that's all. It will inheritance all the methods and the properties of the parent class. And def init, and we want to pass the arguments which are in the parent class, so that also comes in the child class. We want to call the same function def init. In the previous in the parent class there is a self name age, that also comes in the self name age, and here the extra is the student id. We are creating the all the properties in the student parent class. If you want to means super dot init function, that's all. It will call the constructor of the base class and name age, and self dot student id is equal to the student id. In the steady function is also the another method. We are steady with the id number. Okay, and we are creating the object for the student class and passing the arguments as alias 20 and roll number. Okay, let me call the function, quickly call the functions as from the parent class. Student the one dot introduce and student one dot study. Let me try to execute this code. It will print the my name is alias and I am 20 years old. And when we call the student or study function, it will print the student alias with id dollar, sorry, it's a serial number 12345 is study. That's all about the inheritance class. I think you are able to understand the inheritance concept as well as possible, and I like this very much. I like the inheritance concept very much, and I am trying to able to convey the inheritance concept as well as easy possible. Okay, let me see in the another quickly in the another video. So signing off by Kishore, and this is Kishorelytics. If you like this video, please like, subscribe to this video. Thank you.